Yeah, Doggo is the meme killer. Cashing out with your thriller. House party lights all flashing. Pop a bottle, no relaxing. Flexing in the VIP. Bitches kinda feeling free. Thug life, we wildin' out. Nothing but that money cloud. Doggo, we ballin' worldwide. Me money, we can't hide. Poppin' tags like it's FOMO. In the streets, no time for lows. Drinking hand, it's a vibe. Haters watching, trying to snipe. We bring the heat, no denying. In the club, Doggo flying. Got my crew, yeah, we're deep. Stacking sats, no time for sleep. Bitches dancing, feel that fire. Doggo fam, we taking it high. Doggo, we ballin' worldwide. Me money, we can't hide. Poppin' tags like it's FOMO. In the streets, no time for lows. Drinking hand, it's a vibe. Haters watching, trying to snipe. We bring the heat, no denying. In the club, Doggo flying. Got my crew, yeah, we deep. Stacking sats, no time for sleep. Bitches dancing, feel that fire. Doggo fam, we taking it high. Doggo, we ballin' worldwide. Me money, we can't hide. Poppin' tags like it's FOMO. In the streets, no time for lows. Drinking hand, it's a vibe. Haters watching, trying to snipe. We bring the heat, no denying. In the club, Doggo's flying. Got my crew, yeah, we deep. Stacking sats, no time for sleep. Bitches dancing, feel that fire. Doggo fam, we taking it higher. New York City, we own the night. The Doggo fam, we ready to fight. Meme lords, we taking over. Flip the script, we got the clover. All these hookers wanna front, but we grinding, never stunt. Doggo making big moves. In the game, we got the groove. So raise your glass, let's toast to the ones who do the most. Thug life, we living bold. Doggo worldwide, watch it unfold. Doggo, we ballin' worldwide. Me money, we can't hide. Poppin' tags like it's FOMO. In the streets, no time for lows. So remember, the name is clear. Doggo's here, bring the cheer. Me money, house party high. We the kings, watch us fly. So remember, the name is clear. Doggo's here, bring the cheer. Me money, house party high. We the kings, watch us fly.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. You're watching on your TVs in Texas and Louisiana. We are on the Smart Money Culture TV network, as well as watching from around the world on X and YouTube and Rumble and LinkedIn and all those other great ones, Instagram and Facebook and everywhere else. It is always a pleasure to do it. Another end of the week here, Friday. It is Friday. And we're wrapping up another week. We've been doing this show since December, sometime before Christmas. We even did a show on Christmas. It was fun. With my good friend, Matt Dixon. Matt Dixon will join in a little bit. And then as well, my trusted brother, David Porter, who is on a sabbatical at the moment, but working hard and doing a lot of amazing things. You know, Brother David and I, we ran around the world doing a lot of fun things, a lot of things that people never get to do. We ran around the world and we just did them. And it was something else. It was a real pleasure to do it with my brother. That was a lot of fun. And now we're at our next stage. We do have some exciting events coming up in New York City. In New York City, we have UN Blockchain Week coming up end of September. And I see you guys signing up. And that's going to be pretty exciting. We have a lot of exciting projects, important people coming in. Basically, you know, a lot of people are going to Token 2049 in Singapore. And yeah, I get it. That's a lot of fun. Been there before a number of times. But the United Nations right now, with what's going on in the world, this UN General Assembly in New York City is where all of the big guns are going to be, and especially during that last week. So if you want to get involved, just let me know. Reach out to me on X or anywhere else. You know, guys know how to get a hold of me. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. So Bitcoin's political surge, it is quite amazing. You know, I've been involved in Bitcoin for so long. I like to say, well, just a long time, right? Been involved, been part and parcel of this monetary revolution. And it is amazing to see it at this point. And to see, you know, all of the people involved. And I mean, basically now, I mean, the enemy, the central bankers have now, once they figured out that they couldn't beat us, they decided they would just buy as many as possible. And the reason is it's important for everybody to understand Bitcoin is something that has not existed in the history of the world before. And that's why, I still get people that run across and they say, oh gosh, it's a scam or this and that and the other. It just the US dollar is a scam. They can mint as much dollars as they want out of nothing and just dilute your money supply. Bitcoin, not a scam. The price can fluctuate wildly, of course, but with the US dollar, it can as well. You see the inflation that just happened. But the point is that what they do is they just slowly, it's a debt instrument. The US dollar is a debt instrument, it's a tax instrument, and they slowly just tax all of your wealth. And that's why it's hard for people to get ahead, especially with generational wealth and everything else. But with Bitcoin, there's only so many Bitcoin. And, another thing people say is, oh, well, yeah, they can change that and they can add more Bitcoins. Well, no, they can't. Take a deeper dive into what we actually have going on here, or don't. You don't have to understand it in order to use it. Okay, that's another important part. You don't have to understand it. I don't understand a lot of things that you don't maybe understand, how a microwave works, or I don't know, something that you use. You don't have to understand how it works. Okay, just understand that it does work. But if they do produce more coins than the 21 million, then that's a new coin. And we have multiple new coins, thousands, tens and hundreds of thousands of new coins. Okay. And those are called altcoins or alternative digital currencies. And even if they make a new fork or whatever of exactly Bitcoin, like similar that they've done with the Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, even Global Boost, the one that we had a hand in, is still around a long time ago, and 11 years now. We're looking at 11 years, guys, in our 11th year. That is remarkable. Talk about things that changed your life. Sitting up all night for months on years on end, coding and working with different people and putting together a cryptocurrency. Yeah, that changed my life. But that's new. And so you can't just produce more of it. And you should understand that. And you should also understand that there's other ones that are different and they're not the same. And they can produce more of those. They can decide whatever they want to do with them. But even at this point, if they forked Bitcoin or they changed this or they changed that, the old Bitcoin, the one that everybody is hodling and using and is the digital gold of our time, that one will continue. So anyway, the revolution will be decentralized. It will not be centralized. And that's an important statement there, because I was on the phone with my good friend, the great Nick Spanos, yesterday. And Nick and I had a great talk. Nick, it was funny because I was going around the world saying that the monetary talking about the monetary revolution, and someone comes up to me and I used to tell this story all the time, but then whatever, you stop telling it so much. Someone said, "Oh, Nick Spanos," and I said, "Oh, and Nick Spanos said that first." I said, "Yeah, that's Nick Spanos. Nick Spanos, the monetary revolution." So, okay. Sure enough, I go over and started on his X page, and yeah, of course, the monetary revolution. Nick and I have been friends for a long time, and he's the one who coined the phrase, the monetary revolution. I mean, this guy is an absolute legend. He's a legend. So we talked about a lot of things, and one of the things that he said yesterday was that the revolution will not be centralized. And he's right. The revolution will not be centralized. And if you think about that statement for a minute and really kind of take it for what it's worth, the revolution will not be centralized. It will be decentralized. Meaning, we're not going to fight the revolution. You see it being fought around the world. I mean, we're in it, right? And that was the other thing we were talking about. Like, people, and I said it actually yesterday, first, or whatever. Everybody thinks the U.S. is next, but the U.S. isn't next. The U.S. was first. Well, let's put that. Revolution will not be centralized. Nick Spanos. Nick, the great Nick Spanos. I don't know. Let's say around 40. Yes. So you see it already around the world happening. We have the arrest of Pavel. We have the different things that are happening around the world, and the way that people are fighting back. There's no central even government. Like, who is the government? There's no government that is backing the revolution, right? You can maybe say El Salvador, I guess, right? Maybe, but it's a decentralized manner, and we are around the world. We are not just in one place. We are literally decentralized. And, whether we are, there's three things that bring us together. No matter where we are, no matter who you vote for, no matter what country you're in, there's three things that bring us together. We all believe in privacy. We all believe that humans have an inherent right to privacy. Your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own loves and hates, everything. You deserve to have that as your own. You deserve to keep that. Privacy. We all believe in ownership. We all believe that we are actually allowed to own something, to own things. The government just can't take, our central authority is not allowed to take them from us. We are allowed to own them, period. The third thing is freedom. We all believe that we have a right to be free. And we have a right to make freedom, to make our own decisions, to live the way we want to live, and to be free. And that's what we believe in. It doesn't matter where you go in the world, or what language you're speaking, or any of that stuff. Like, none of that matters. And that's the decentralized manner in the way that we will save the world, because I can tell you that the people that oppose us are monolithic in the way that they do this. This slavery system that we are all under is, it's happened over 100 years. Over 100 years. So they are monolithic and ruthless. They've slowly stolen everything. They stole the country in 1913 in the U.S. They stole all your gold in 1933. They even now steal your right to have your own kids, right? You don't even get your own kids. They can take your kids at any time. They can take your house at any time. They can take your freedom at any time. The future is decentralized. The revolution will not be centralized. Nick Spanos. Got to end the Fed. Interestingly enough, the Rothschilds stocks. Need to get up to New York and record our song. Interestingly enough, the Rothschilds are closing some of their offices in Chicago and other places. They sold off a lot of their worldly goods last year, year before. That was really something else. That's actually worth showing. Let me see here. Auction. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Sometimes it's easy on X, and then other times they hide the stuff from you, and it makes it pretty much impossible, or at least very hard to find it, especially when you're on air. Let's see, estate sale, maybe estate sell. I talked so much about the Rothschild. It's hard to Rothschilds. Well, like I said, if it doesn't pop up quick, I'm not gonna play it here. Anyway, they sold off a bunch of their stuff. I don't know if that means that they're, I mean, obviously everybody's catching on to the scam across the West. So it was interesting. I was in the car actually with my oldest daughter yesterday, and she's like a performer, they do performers and plays and all that stuff. And she was playing a song from like Newsies or something like that. It was very interesting. It might have not have been Newsies, but it was from some play from 50, 70 years ago. And the woman was singing, and I think she was singing to her boyfriend or something. They wanted to come from Venezuela. She said, "Come from Venezuela. Come to the United States. I want to come to the United States." She says, "I want a washing machine. They will give me a washing machine. They'll give me credit, and I will be able to buy the washing machine. I can buy it. We can buy a house. You stay in Venezuela if you want. Everybody is coming to the United States. We can buy credit." I mean, this is like the song. I was like, wow, it's eye-opening, right? My age, you feel like you heard a lot of stuff, most stuff, right? Like, look at that. What play is this from, and listen to the song. Free stuff! Free stuff, guys! Just come. And then they come, and then you got to get the job. And then, so the scam is like, it's like crazy, right? So that's why everything is so expensive. The houses, everything is so expensive. Everything is way overpriced. But then you can afford it here. You just make the payment. Now, if you don't make the payment, they take it back. It's like a margin loan for everything. And it did. If you look, you say, okay, but that's what built the United States. I've heard the argument. I mean, okay. That's also what enslaved us all, where people can't speak up, where we have 160 people sitting in jail for protesting an election that actual states were saying was not valid. Arizona said our vote tally is not valid, as well as other states. They said our vote tally is not valid. Whole legislative branches of the state said our vote tally is not right. And the guys that protested it are in jail, and they're sitting in jail for years. We lost our freedom for free stuff. And now we have an entire economy that's built on this free stuff, credit. And it's going to crash. Today, we're going to talk more about PCE numbers with the markets. I have the great Matt Dixon here. Sir Matt.
Hello, good morning.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, we've got PCE numbers coming out now in just over 2 hours. 2 hours and 4 minutes, I think they're due for release. So yeah, it's a big day. Markets have been really treading water. I'll just jump into some screens.
Cool.
Get on to present. Okay.
Yeah, they have been tepid at best, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating sometimes, but that's just the nature of the markets. That when there's data expected, they do just tread water.
Yes.
And I trust you can see there the core PCE
core
data.
PCE price index.
Yeah. You know, I always like to analyze what I've said and think about what I've said. I don't just say it and forget it. And I was talking yesterday about why is it the Fed use core PCE rather than headline PCE in their deliberations. And it just occurred to me today when I was looking at the two charts. We'll just look at them both today. So clearly we've got core PCE here, which you can see it's declined every single month for the last year. Well, it's either declined or remained stable. So we did have 3 months where it stuck on 2.8%, then it dropped again, and a couple of months at 2.6%. And then this month, you can see here on the top that it was 2.6%. The next reading just about to come out in a couple of hours' time is expected at 2.7%. So that will be the first increase in more than a year. And I do genuinely believe that would be very significant, especially being as Fed Chair Powell said that they're looking to reduce rates. And I'm not quite sure how you reduce rates when PCE inflation is increasing. That'll be an interesting one. Or maybe he just knows the figures before we do. Maybe he knows that it's going to either remain stable or drop. If that were to happen, I think it's going to be quite a positive for the markets, because the market has already factored in the fact that PCE is expected to come out worse or higher than expected. In other words, inflation increase. So that's why markets have sold off quite a bit. It's nothing major. I mean, we can still see the moves down tend to be corrective, overlapping moves, and we'll see that in the charts in a moment. But I'm hoping and expecting that the PCE rate will remain the same at 2.6%, or maybe even we get a surprise and it drops to 2.5. If that's the case, then we'll see a continuation of this decline in inflation, and that really would give the Fed the room they need to make that reduction. So anyway, what I just wanted to focus on here, core PCE, which takes out food and energy. And I questioned yesterday, why do they take out food and energy? Well, I mean, I know they've said it, that it's these are volatile measures. And actually, I guess I do understand it, because food and energy, they are volatile. Yes, of course, they are things that we spend our money on. So for us, they're important. And that's why they do give both measures, and they give both the core and the headline. So they're important to people to understand that prices have actually been going up, and we can see, when you look at the headline, that rates have gone higher. So let's just move over to headline. So again, just remember this has decreased or remained stable all the way through. So if I just flip over to, let's just see now. Okay, I can do it that way. This is the headline. So we can see here the headline PCE has actually been a lot more volatile. Now, headline also is expected to increase from 2.5 to 2.6%. That's the release in 2 hours' time, expected to increase. So again, if we see it remain stable or decrease, that will be hopefully a big positive for the markets. But what I'm saying is about the PCE, which is the core, which the Fed tend to use a lot more, because it filters out these seasonally volatile things of food and energy. And food, because of production, food prices do fluctuate throughout the year. And also because of energy, we know that energy, you have the driving season. I know Bruce has mentioned that in the past, the driving season. We've also got heating requirements in winter. So you do get a lot of seasonal fluctuations. And that's why we get these big fluctuations in the headline PCE. And so I guess it does make sense that the Fed would struggle to make sensible policy decisions based on something which fluctuates seasonally anyway. They want to look at something which is more underlying, which is why they have this core PCE measure. So I've answered my own question. But
as we so often do.
Yeah, but it's good to understand. So we'll look here at, very briefly, at these are the core PCE numbers over quite some time now, past 4 years or so. And you can see the massive increase in inflation that we had. This was after the COVID crisis, but it was also linked, I believe, with the war in Ukraine, Russia. And obviously that caused a spike in both food and energy prices. And it took PCE way higher and CPI higher still. So that's what caused a massive increase in inflation. So I have argued along the way that these increases in my view, have been largely externally driven. Because of the war in Ukraine, it did create supply chain issues and energy issues for food and energy, of course, and that's what caused the increase. So with the sort of that war, it's a terrible war, and it's just continued to go on and on and on, and it's we don't even really appreciate the pain and suffering that that's involved with that.
And death is just horrible. It's just horrible. Just absolutely beautiful people. All people are beautiful, but I mean, just beautiful people on both sides.
Yeah, but sadly, I guess we have to. The life goes on for the rest of the world, and we find different ways to, different supply routes, etc. And we've seen inflation decreasing since the height of that war, really in the early days. But as I say, it's still continuing terribly, maybe even worse. But supply, they find different supply routes and so on. So inflation's come down. So both supply, I don't think demand has changed dramatically, which is one reason why the US economy has stayed quite robust. But supply has remained good. Energy supplies, even with problems in the Middle East, there hasn't been a disruption to the supply of energy, and so that's why again inflation's coming down. And I think that as long as these things remain, the geopolitical tensions remain stable as they are, then I think the outlook is reasonably good. But we do have problems beginning to surface. As I say, unemployment has actually ticked up, which is one of the really important measures. And we still see this inflation is just so important. I can't overemphasize how important today's inflation is. So we can see the numbers here, and we can actually see for the past year, as I said, that the actual has either reduced or remained the same at worst. So we saw 3 months in a row of 2.8%. The last 2 months have been 2.6%. This month, the forecast is 2.7, and we'll just see what it comes out at. So that has been the backdrop to the chart, what's been happening. So we did start to move up quite nicely. We had, generally good news out of, for Bitcoin, what with ETF inflows, etc., economic news, expectations of lowering of interest rates. But then we got the fly in the ointment was that PCE is expected to come out higher. So immediately we see quite a sharp sell-off on Bitcoin here. So that's purely based on inflation expectations. So whoever says crypto is not sensitive to these economic data points, they are wrong. And they actually turn precisely when expectations change. So expectations are right here now. We've ticked up just a little bit, but it's still really in consolidation mode. In fact, for a long time, we've been in consolidation mode. If we can get some slightly weaker PCE figures, that could change the longer term outlook. And just focusing back on the longer term outlook, we can see that Bitcoin has been in a downtrend ever since the all-time high of 73,000 and odd, which came after we got a rise. We got an initial fall. We say buy the rumor, sell the news. We got an initial fall following the Bitcoin ETF launch. Then we rose substantially in 5 clear waves to complete this wave 3 in red. And then since that time, the all-time high, and that's a long time ago now.
Yeah.
In crypto terms, March.
Like forever in crypto terms.
Yeah, but you can see price has been declining, but not impulsively, been declining in a corrective fashion, overlapping fashion. So even it doesn't mean we're not going to necessarily dip a bit lower, but we do have supports in place, as I've covered in previous days, with moderate support just below at around 56,000, and then solid, powerful support below that at 49. Even that could break. As we always say, there's never absolute certainty, but even so, even if they were to break those supports, I still think this is a corrective move down, all overlapping. We should expect at some point soon to have new all-time highs for Bitcoin. And just flipping through the markets, same goes for Ethereum. Again, we've got that impulsive move to the upside, corrective move to the downside. So I think reasonably soon we're going to be pushing higher. And I'm flipping through them reasonably quickly today because there's not an awful lot to say, because we are just treading water ahead of this PCE news, which is now hour and a half or something away. Is it? Oh, less than 2 hours, sorry, now away. So not far away. We've seen a bit of a turn down in Solana. Solana is one of the more volatile assets, and when the market goes up, it goes up more. So if we were to get good news out today, then that would be positive. What I would just notice, I'll go back to the 4 hour here. We did actually break. Let's just see whether this is, I was measuring. Okay, we still have some mild, I would say very mild. I think we're still sloping slightly upwards here. So we still have mild hidden bullish divergence in place for Solana. If price drops lower, that hidden bullish divergence will be eliminated. It actually opens the way up for lower prices potentially. And this is also effectively a support level here, the previous low here. Then the next support will be down here. So a little bit like Bitcoin, we've got different support levels. And these are all important risk reward levels to place your trades, put stop losses close by, and wait for a move up with a good risk reward ratio. Obviously, the upside here is much, much higher. The downside, if you place your stop just below a previous low, which would be just below this line here, and then again here. So there's plenty of opportunities for good risk reward trades that may or may not pay off. But if they pay off, they should pay off a multiple of the risk that you're taking. So that's quite good. So Solana 139, there's potential for much higher. As I say, the immediate upside here is, is a good potential upside. Again, just like the supports, there's also overhead resistances. So we've got to break this sort of level here. 164 would be an important level to break for Solana. Then the next level above that we'd need to break for a further move higher would be 194. And then beyond that, we're probably looking at 209, which is a previous local high. But right now, as I say, we do have mild hidden bullish divergence. So there's real potential for markets to move up quite substantially there. So those we covered them in a bit more detail yesterday. Those divergence measures are really good. So, for example,
it's so important. That divergence, it's such a powerful indicator.
It really is. I mean, again, I won't go over them all, but just the couple I can see here. So this one here, we basically had regular bearish divergence, and you can see price turned on a dime and turned down really sharply. Here we had hidden bearish divergence here on this one, and again, price on the button moved down. Here right now we have hidden bullish divergence at the moment, and yeah, there's a real chance price could tick up. So I'm looking forward to these figures coming out very shortly. So we'll just go through the major things, and then we'll wrap up for today. But again, gold is looking reasonably solid. Gold, as we noted the other day, is been recently long term. It's actually quite well correlated with Bitcoin. Short term, there's been divergence, and that's because gold is a great hedge against uncertainty. Bitcoin is of growing importance as a hedge against uncertainty, but it's not there yet. It's an evolving asset, and it's still yet to reach full maturity as a serious store of value. But it's coming more and more that way, especially with the ETF that we have. But for the time being, gold is a better store of value, and that's why gold has been robust, keeps punching through new all-time highs. We've seen it over and over again, and I suspect that we may still push higher. Certainly medium to long term, I think we've got much higher to go on gold, and that reflects potential uncertainty with the economy still moving ahead. So gold is a great cornerstone, as it were, a great foundation for any well-diversified portfolio. So that's gold. Oil has been, again, relatively flat and choppy. We need to see some external drivers for oil, whether it be supply or demand side, to really get some direction on oil. At the moment, it's pretty much undecided. So we just need to see some direction, whether it be from the demand side, that would be the economy potentially picking up, or whether it be from the supply side with potential disruptions if we see escalation in the Middle East. So those are the two main drivers.
It was actually a reporter was reading this morning, and it looked like we were bombing the heck out of the U.S. was bombing the heck out of those positions in Yemen. So not a whole lot of talk about it, but there is a lot going on there.
Yeah, I think that the Yemen, although it's an important part of this axis, this confederacy of nations around Israel, against Israel, we've got Yemen effectively, with the Houthis, you've got Lebanon, you've got Iran, you've got Syria, all of these nations roundabout. And whilst Yemen is a part of that kind of confederacy, is not so important. Yes, they're a thorn in the side, and they disrupt shipping in the Red Sea, and that's why I guess the US are getting involved there. But they're less important than others, like, for example, Hezbollah in Lebanon are a lot more important as a challenge to Israel and a potential, worry for escalation. That's my reading, anyway.
Yeah, it definitely played a lot with the natural gas prices. I don't know. They're going to keep the price of oil down, I think, as much as possible as we move forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's it does have a big effect on inflation. Clearly, it's in everybody's interest to, keep inflation under control, especially as they want to lower interest rates to keep the economy moving. In everybody's interest to keep this oil price under control. So that's why I think the US have a real reason, a real axe to grind in terms of maintaining stability, stopping the Houthis, disrupting oil supplies and natural gas supplies. So I think that's the reason. There's always political reasons behind what they do. And I think that's it. So DXY, dollar index, again, we bounced pretty well off support, which was to be expected. That's a long-term support, which was visited some time ago. We can see here. And the support pretty well held and bounced higher. I think that most likely, if we get weaker inflation, clearly we're going to break through this support. Once we break through it, then this downside is open for the dollar.
Yep.
And that would really open the way for potentially a good run on risk, a good run higher, that is, on risk assets like Bitcoin, etc. I think that's pretty well it for today. I'll just touch on S&P 500 very briefly. Again, that's another one that's been very bullish, pushing new all-time highs. We had the very clear ABC correction to the downside. We've had so far wave 1 up, 2 down, 3 up. I think this is a 4 down, so we've got a 5th wave higher to come. So again, that would be like another piece of jigsaw fitting perfectly, telling us there's upside to come. So probably good PCE figures. That's my feeling, my gut feeling. Hope I'm right, but you never know till they come out. But it does look like this is a corrective ABC down of some sort, and I do think that we're going to push higher on the S&P. That would mean brand new all-time highs to come, and I think it's nailed on certainty. May not necessarily today, but I think it's a nailed on certainty that in the near future we see new all-time highs for the S&P 500, because this was such a nice clear ABC to the downside, and I think this is a nice clear impulse to the upside. Wave 3 was precisely 2 times wave 1, which again is not a Fibonacci number, but it is actually an important relationship where you get an exact multiple of the wave size. So this wave size measured from here to here, I have labeled as wave 1, and then wave 2 down, I transpose it, and it gives us the exact top for wave 3. So again, these relationships are really important to notice, and I look for them constantly. And I suppose finally, the very last one I'll look at is Toncoin. I'm still expecting, we haven't broken any important supports, despite the bad news of Pavel Durov. I haven't heard anything lately, actually. I don't know what's going on there. Any news, Bruce?
He's been released. He posted €5 million bail, and he cannot leave France.
Okay, so probably going to end up a slap on the wrist, as we said the other day. So that could open the way higher for Toncoin. So again, we didn't break any of these really important support levels. This was an important support level, and we still have this hidden bullish divergence in place. And as we said, that's a really powerful indicator. So I actually think a bit of good news today. That'll give us the tailwind that we need, the following wind that we need to push asset prices higher. And I think Toncoin has a lot of potential to move higher to new all-time highs, I think, in the not too distant future at all. I mean, it's not far away, an all-time high for Toncoin. So yeah, all good news. Markets, as you can see, totally mixed. We've got red and green across the board here. So they're just waiting for the news, as we are. So let's look forward to that and hope it's a good day. And I hope you all have a great weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in.
You got it, my man. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. And I'll talk soon. I'll see you on Monday, if nothing else.
Thank you, Bruce. Bye for now. Bye, everybody.
Cheers. So as we're focusing, we finished up there with the Durov brothers, with Pavel Durov, and of course the Ton coin. So Pavel is the founder of Telegram. His brother Nikolai is the founder of Ton coin. So Pavel is said to be worth north of 10 billion, I think $14 billion. So you can imagine the type of influence that he can have on a currency that his brother has started. So of course that sent his arrest sent the price tumbling, a little bit. I mean, it was considerable. I certainly got caught up in it. I know a lot of people that did. A lot of the different coins that are built on it as well got caught up in it. It is as well had a chilling effect on freedom and even on people's plans. Like we had a guy, let me just see here, free Pavel. Let me just put this out before I move on here. So and a lot of the coins that are built on it, like Dog or Flower, which of course I'm involved with Dollar or. Okay, we're working with that one to get them. They don't even have the Coin Market Cap page or the Coin Gecko page. So I'm in the team chat with them. Like, all right, guys, let's do this. I've done this a number of times. So if you want to make a speculative play on that, it might be a good moment for it. Not financial advice and all that jazz, but the effect that this has had on the world, this arrest of Pavel Durov has been profound. It's been remarkable. I mean, even myself, I was just in Paris. I love Paris. I was in Paris at least twice this year. I've been to Paris every year, probably for the past 20 years of my life. And if we're now in, and it's not if we are, because now we are. And that's another thing I was talking about Nick Spanos about yesterday. Now we are in a time where this is happening. It is happening. Where you have the arrest of Pavel Durov because things were happening on his platform. And again, guys, human trafficking, they get flown around on airplanes. Are we going to arrest the CEO of the airline corporations because people are human trafficking on the airplanes? Are we going to arrest the CEO of AT&T because people are making drug deals on the phone? No, we're not. So the arrest of people just for what they want, saying it's whatever reasons that they want, it has to stop. The revolution will be decentralized. It will not be centralized. It will be decentralized. So Matt's probably right. It'll probably be a slap on the wrist. But what's at stake really is they really want to scare everybody. And they want you to not have a way to communicate privately. They want to have total and complete control. And who is they? They is the central banking cartel that currently rules the world. That's who they is. They conquered Europe at the turn of the century. I could play that clip again. And they conquered the United States back in 1913. And as I've said multiple times, we're not second, guys. We are first. The U.S. was first. They already assassinated John F. Kennedy. They already pushed out Nixon. They already overthrew an election. Two of them, really. Last election in 2022, should have been a red wave, and they just were able to just really keep that down. Let me just see here. Conquered. You might have seen this before, but it's a pretty good explanation if you haven't seen it before. This is how, and they conquered the U.S. in the dead of night with legislation. They backed Woodrow Wilson, the central banking cartel. They backed Woodrow Wilson, said, we'll give you all the money that you need. Just let us have our central bank, the Federal Reserve. We'll get you elected. We'll give you all the money you need. We'll fund whatever you want. He's got a big bridge here in the D.C. area now, the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, named after him. The Woodrow Wilson Bridge. Now, this is how it happened in Europe. I was traveling in Europe. I spent a lot of time in Europe. I love Europe. So I understood this more than most people. Take a listen here.
So I'm back in Paris, here to cover Paris Blockchain Week. Very important event here. Everybody pretty much is going to be here. I am at the museum, the Louvre Museum, or Museum des Louvre, as they call it here in France. One of the things I've been talking about over all these years that we have been friends and I've been broadcasting is the monetary revolution, how important it is. What I wanted to touch on is, of course, I'll cover a lot of things over the next few days. I'll talk to a lot of people and bring you a lot of very interesting projects and technology and everything else. But the underlying message that I always have is the monetary revolution. And it's very interesting. And one of the ways that I understand really so much about the monetary revolution is what I saw happen in Europe. So I was lucky enough to start traveling a few decades ago before the euro was enacted. Before they started doing the euro, I was traveling around Europe, very, very cheap, very wonderful, still very beautiful. I mean, it's unbelievable here. You can just see behind me. It's just absolutely unbelievable. But the central banking cartel was able to conquer all of Europe without firing a shot. Now, how did they do that? How did they pull that off? It was very simple. And understanding this and seeing it happen is really important. It's something I want you guys to understand as well. I know many of you probably do. They did it with the currency. It was very simple. So they said, come on to our currency. Come on to our currency. We'll give you free money. We'll finance the things that you want to finance. Is really the same way as well. The U.S. got on the Federal Reserve System. We were having issues there, and the central bank said, no problem. We'll bail you out. We'll give you all the money that you need. Okay. And then in the dark of night, they passed the Federal Reserve Act. So now we have a privately held central bank. But back to Europe and what happened here and what I witnessed happened here. It was the slow boil like we experience all over the world, right? These people operate in decades and centuries. It's very interesting, really, how many decades and whatnot that it takes sometimes. I guess, though, I was fairly quick, but they started, okay, we'll give you free money. We will finance what you want. Just come on to the euro. Come on to the euro system. And this euro, of course, is paper money, right? They can print whatever they want of it. And remember, the central bank doesn't produce anything other than paper money. I mean, obviously, they make the monetary policy, interest rates, stuff like this. There's some market making that goes on there, but overall, it's not like they're producing anything really. It's like the government. The government really doesn't make money. They're not good at making money. So when the central bank says that they're going to pay for stuff, all they're doing is diluting you in order to pay for it. So they'll print up more money. They'll pay for whatever you want. They'll pay for their enormous salaries, as well as everything else that they do. They'll pay for all types of wars and government spending and everything like that. But all they're doing is taking it from you. There's no real value there. And then once that they have the people on the dole, they're able to then put people in power and, of course, influence policy, right? So now you have a situation where everybody's beholden to the central bank. You have pretty much all of Europe on this euro system, and now they have a new government. And what is that new government? Of course, they have a parliament and they have blah, blah, blah and everything else, but the new government is the central bank. That's who was in charge. And that was how they were able to take over the entirety of Europe. And they did it by stealing the people's money slowly. They stole it slowly, so it wasn't so obvious for everybody. And at first it was so nice, and they had, this and that and the other. But now you go to Europe, it's much more expensive. And they're doing the same thing that we do. They just print up more and more money. And when they print up more and more money, that of course dilutes your holdings and makes you worth less. And that's the way it works. It's the biggest scam in the world. They've done it very successfully over almost all of these countries. Russia still doesn't use a central bank. And as well, we have Syria that doesn't use a central bank. Gaddafi tried it. They killed him. But yeah, pretty interesting. And that's how Europe fell without a shot. There is a central government, obviously, now in Europe. You have the European Union. And they are in charge. They're in charge of all of these countries. And the central bank, the European Central Bank, is in charge of them. And that is the same central banking cartels that runs the country in the United States and Brazil and all the other countries of the world. It is a big scam. We have to stop it. We can stop it. It's not going to be easy. But we'll talk about it more on the show tomorrow, on the Impact Money Show. We're going to bring you a lot of great interviews. We're super excited about it here to be at Paris Blockchain Week. Back in Paris, beautiful Paris. I mean, absolutely is just unbelievable place. Paris is so beautiful. See you soon.
Okay, I have lost my thing, but I'm almost done here anyway. I'm gonna play this. This is what a central bank is. Hold on.
A central bank is an institution that produces the currency of an entire nation. Based on historical precedent, two specific powers are inherent in central banking practice: the control of interest rates and the control of the money supply, or inflation. The central bank does not simply supply a government's economy with money, it loans it to them at interest. Then, through the use of increasing and decreasing the supply of money, the central bank regulates the value of the currency being issued. It is critical to understand that the entire structure of this system can only produce one thing in the long run: debt. It doesn't take a lot of ingenuity to figure this scam out. For every single dollar produced by the central bank is loaned at interest. That means every single dollar produced is actually the dollar plus a certain percent of debt based on that dollar. And since the central bank has the monopoly over the production of the currency for the entire country, and they loan each dollar out with immediate debt attached to it, where does the money to pay for the debt come from? It can only come from the central bank again, which means the central bank has to perpetually increase its money supply to temporarily cover the outstanding debt created, which in turn, since that new money is loaned out at interest as well, creates even more debt. The end result of this system without fail is slavery, for it is impossible for the government and thus the public to ever come out of the self-generating debt. At this time, the dominant families in the banking and business world were the Rockefellers, the Morgans, the Warburgs, the Rothschilds. And in the early 1900s, they sought to push once again legislation to create another central bank. However, they knew the government and public were very weary of such an institution, so they needed to create an incident to affect public opinion. So, J.P. Morgan, publicly considered a financial luminary at the time, exploited his mass influence by publishing rumors that a prominent bank in New York was insolvent or bankrupt. Morgan knew this would cause mass hysteria, which would affect other banks as well. And it did. The public, in fear of losing their deposits, immediately began mass withdrawals. Consequently, the banks were forced to call in their loans, causing the recipients to sell their property, and thus a spiral of bankruptcies, repossessions, and turmoil emerged. Putting the pieces together a few years later, Frederick Allen of Life magazine wrote, "The Morgan interests took advantage to precipitate the panic, guiding it shrewdly as it progressed." Unaware of the fraud, the Panic of 1907 led to a congressional investigation headed by Senator Nelson Aldrich, who had intimate ties to the banking cartels and later became part of the Rockefeller family through marriage. The commission, led by Aldrich, recommended a central bank should be implemented so a panic like 1907 could never happen again. And in 1913, with heavy political sponsorship by the bankers, Woodrow Wilson became president, having already agreed to sign the Federal Reserve Act in exchange for campaign support. And 2 days before Christmas, when most of Congress was at home with their families, the Federal Reserve Act was voted in, and Wilson in turn made it law. A world banking system was being set up here, a superstate controlled by international bankers, acting together to enslave the world for their own pleasure. The Fed has usurped the government. Now, the public was told that the Federal Reserve System was an economic stabilizer, and inflation and economic crises were a thing of the past. Well, as history has shown, nothing is further from the truth. The fact is, the international bankers now had a streamlined machine to expand their personal ambitions.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
For example, from 1914 to 1919, the Fed increased the money supply by nearly 100%, resulting in extensive loans to small banks and the public. Then, in 1920, the Fed called in mass percentages of the outstanding money supply, thus resulting in the supporting banks having to call in huge numbers of loans, and just like 1907, bank runs, bankruptcy, and collapse occurred. Over 5,400 competitive banks outside of the Federal Reserve System collapsed, further consolidating the monopoly of a small group of international bankers. Privy to this crime, Congressman Lindbergh stepped up and said in 1921, "Under the Federal Reserve Act, panics are scientifically created. The present panic is the first scientifically created one, worked out as we figure a mathematical equation." However, the panic of 1920 was just a warm-up. From 1921 to 1929, the Fed again increased the money supply, resulting once again in extensive loans to the public and banks. There was also a fairly new type of loan called a margin loan in the stock market. Very simply, the margin loan allowed an investor to put down only 10% of a stock's price, with the other 90% being loaned through the broker. In other words, a person could own $1,000 worth of stock with only $100 down. However, there was a catch to this loan. It could be called in at any time and had to be paid within 24 hours. This is termed a margin call, and the typical result of a margin call is the selling of the stock purchased with the loan. So, a few months before October in 1929, J.D. Rockefeller, Bernard Baruch, and other insiders quietly exited the market. And on October 24th, 1929, the New York financiers who furnished the margin loans started calling them in masse. This sparked an instantaneous, massive sell-off in the market, for everyone had to cover the margin loans. It then triggered mass bank runs for the same reason, in turn collapsing over 16,000 banks, enabling the conspiring international bankers to not only buy up rival banks at a discount, but to also buy up whole corporations at pennies on the dollar. It was the greatest robbery in American history. But that didn't stop there. Rather than expanding the money supply in order to recover from this economic collapse, the Fed actually contracted it, fueling one of the largest depressions in history.
There you have it, folks. That is going to be the show for the day. I have a great weekend. I love you guys. We'll be back on Monday. Of course, I'll be on my X feed at Networks Manager. Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.